You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody! The Raid 2 came out like last month in the United States and everywhere else last week. And you know what that means?
We're going to be attacked by a crowd of people and fight them off one at a time?
Yes, and it's gonna last for fucking ever. It also means another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. For those of you who don't know, what we do at Don't F with the Original is, when there's a new movie coming out that happens to be a sequel, a remake, or a reboot, we check out the original movie that started the franchise and review it, and then sort of talk about our expectations for the new entry in the franchise.
Yes.
In the case of The Raid 2, as you might have guessed, the first movie is called The Raid, or The Raid Redemption, because the thing that happened is that they were planning a remake of The Raid.
Yeah.
So they went like, yeah, we're playing a remake, and we're going to call it The Raid, so call your movie something else. Which is like so bizarre, like, we're the original.
Yeah.
You come up with something else. That's weird.
Because it's funny, because redemption is probably one of the most overused word in video games for sequels. So for having it, be redemption, be the first movie, you're like, this is weird.
I'm not even sure who redeems who in this movie. I mean, I have an inkling as like, well, it's probably that character, but is he that important to the story? Really?
Yeah,
anyway.
I know.
Alright, so The Raid Redemption, 2011 movie, directed by Gareth Evans. Very short plot, so you go for it, Nick.
Basically, it's a SWAT team that's raiding the building of a crime lord. Basically, the crime lord has that building, and he basically protects all the criminals that live in there for, rent and money. So they raid the building, and it kind of goes askew, because they've been warned ahead of time that they were coming, and it's basically a fight for survival in that building full of criminals.
It's a movie from Indonesia, for those of you who are wondering.
Yeah.
And it's pretty high on martial arts. I'm pretty sure that's Muay Thai that they're doing.
Yeah, looks like it. At the beginning, when they were doing the SWAT thing, I thought it was going to be something original. I had never seen, a SWAT movie where it's like a team going together and, everybody working together. It's more of a video game thing, actually, where you're all playing online, a group of like 15 versus the enemy. I thought that was going to be so interesting. But then, mild spoiler alert, there are 15 guys and 10 of them get killed in the first 2 minutes when shit hits the fan. I was kind of disappointed at that point. I was like, come on. This is not what I wanted to see.
Yeah, because it starts off well enough. When they're taking floor by floor with ninja-like efficiency, which it's actually pretty awesome at that point.
Yeah.
I was all into it. And then the shit hit the fan, and my reaction was not like, oh, it's going to change. It was like, no, of course, eventually they're going to have to face a challenge. I was more like, I looked at my watch and went like, already?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was like, that's a end of second act thing. Yeah. Like, no, it's like 10 minutes in, and it's like, okay, now we're going to extend the third act to an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. No, I knew things were going to change, is what I'm saying. I just wanted them to be, squad versus bad guy, and not just one guy versus bad guys, is what I wanted to see. I guess there might be more problems to doing that in the movie than into, in video games, because in video games, everybody is playing a different character, so you're all playing together, and you're like, these are my teammates, I know them, even though I don't know them particularly, I care about them. Whereas for the 15 guys in this movie, we didn't see, we saw one guy and his wife being pregnant. We didn't see, the 14 other wives of the other guys being pregnant, so I guess we don't care about them.
Yeah, and in fairness to the movie, it's not one guy, it's, 2.
Yeah.
And then eventually 3.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think you could have done maybe not 15, but easily 6 or 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Avengers had 6 or 7 heroes that are not just heroes, but larger than life heroes on top of that.
Ocean's 11 had 11 guys. Come on.
Just it out. 5 or 6 of them actually matter.
Yeah, it's true. But still, I'm trying to stretch it here, but you know what I'm saying, it's like more than 3 would have been great,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know this movie's beloved, and I don't want it to be one of those things where we just sort of take a dog poop on something everyone loves and then just keep pushing that same button. Because, to be honest, I only have one problem with this movie. It's monotonous. That's my only problem with this movie.
Okay.
But that problem is so huge that I can't appreciate anything else about it. I was bored.
It's the main problem. I mean,
Yeah.
monotonous, I think, is one of the main sins in the movie. It's you're like, oh, this again. You know, it's never good when that happens.
So I'm going to vow that now that I've said it, I'm not going to repeat it, and I'm going to try to find something else to say about this movie.
All right, I'm not making that vow.
So the first thing I'm going to say is the fight choreography is, to me, quite impressive. Again, I think it would have been more impressive in smaller doses.
Yes.
But kudos to the martial artists involved. They do some spectacular stunts in there.
Yeah.
And more importantly, kudos to Gareth Evans, who finds really crazy new ways to film stuff in a way that in a lot of scenes made me ask, how the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
There is one scene where there's a bunch of people who are shooting, bah, 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 and the hero is running from the guns and then is like jumping into a hole on the floor. Then when he jumps down, the other guys are already down, like his partners are already down there. So he jumps down, then he rolls. There's already bad guys on the floor below shooting. So he leaps down and rolls, and then his partner leaps over him and starts shooting the bad guys. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of action. But here's the thing that's amazing. It's all one shot.
Yeah.
From one floor to the next, following our heroes and then doing some crazy shit. I can't begin to understand where the cameraman was and what he did and how they rigged him up so that he could go through 2 floors. I thought that was amazing. I'm just watching this. I was like, how the hell did you pull that off?
Some of those shots were very nice. And like one that I really liked, that I might have an inkling of how they did it, is that they're fighting close to it's not even a staircase, because the staircase are close to like I guess a light well would be in the center of the building, and good guy throws one of the bad guys over, and he just lands on the side of light well, and he basically bends in half once he hits there, and you hear the like, crack, and I was like, oh, that must have hurt. And that's not the normal stunt for a stuntman to do. You're supposed to land flat on your back. I mean, the way he landed is like, My guess is they probably filmed it backwards with ropes, and like he was backwards there, and then they just lifted him, as opposed to that's my guess, because there's no way the guy fell like that and then twitched, and it's like, oh no, that guy's on interaction for the rest of his life. But I like certain things like that. That said, unfortunately, I'm just gonna go a little bit into the monotonous thing. There were so many of them that towards the end, I was like, I don't want to pay attention to this anymore. It's like another fight scene, and of course, the best fight scene is at the end, as for any movie. But at that point, I was like so bored of fight scenes. I was like, yeah, okay, they're kicking, they're punching. It's good. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. It is a question of less is more sometimes.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. Another thing I didn't like about these action, because again I'm trying to keep away from that one comment.
Yeah.
Is that there's no joy in it. The violence is extreme, by the way. Like, these are people kicking and hitting each other for such a long time that you can't call it realistic. That ain't realistic.
No.
Because they should be dead after like the 3rd kick or so.
just the way of the ninja attacks, where he's fighting a group of guys, and it's one at a time all the time. You're like, okay, this is not just swarm the guy and punch him all at once. So it's not realistic. So. Yeah. That also helps a little bit your argument, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, so it's not realistic. So if you're not going to go for realistic, I feel you should give us like a sort of an emotional journey into your fight choreography. Like, if you look at some of the best out there, and I'm immediately thinking of Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous joy in the way he does it. It's not always this like, I'm going to kick you, you're going to kick me. I'm going to kick you, you're going to kick me. It's like Jackie Chan starts off and he has the upper hand because he's wily and skillful, and then the bad guy reveals that it's like, I'm wily and skillful too. Yeah. And then Jackie Chan starts to get a beating, and then Jackie Chan then gets away with it by thinking outside the box, and he starts to use his environment in creative, crazy ways.
Yeah.
Like, there's sort of a storytelling within the fight choreography.
That's true.
And that's what's missing in the Raid, where it's just like, okay, we're going to fight. Kick, 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 punch, 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 punch. I take a hit, you take a hit. I take a hit, you take a hit. Like that's all it is. That makes it joyless.
Yeah. I mean, compared to something I used to watch, but even professional wrestling had stories in the matches, and it's like, oh, good guy starts, he's beating, he's winning, and then the bad guy cheats, low blow or something, and he gets the upper hand. Then you have to do like your comeback at the end, and just Hulk up, and he's like, I'm going to win, I'm the good guy, I'm going to win, and if there's no story in the fight, it's just a bunch of people punching each other. It's might as well just I know I used the video game analogy in a good way earlier, but it might as well just be a video game where you're just mashing buttons, and there's no strategy, no nothing. You're just pressing A as fast as you can, just in a way, hoping you win. Yeah, that's pretty much what I felt was happening.
Maybe taking Jackie Chan is unfair because he's sort of a master at this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Sylvester Stallone's Rocky movies, and this Sylvester Stallone, he's an amateur boxer, and I don't want to take credit away from him for that.
Yeah.
But he's nobody compared to these stunt artists in the raid. They're so much more talented than he is. The stunts they perform are mesmerizing compared to what does. And yet I'm more involved in the 20-minute boxing match that ends every Rocky movie than I am in this. Because again, there's a narrative in how the fight progresses. It's not just like, look at this cool shit I can do.
It's true. When you compare the boxing fights, there's no action in boxing fight. It's about the story. It's not about the fight. It's really about, how is Rocky doing? How is he going to get out of it? You don't believe for a second it's a real boxing fight, that a boxing match would actually happen that way. It's just, it tells the story.
This is a movie that felt oppressive to me. It depressed me because of that lack of joy, that lack of interest in characters, in human life in general, because these people are so expendable. And even the craft of survival, it's just about violence.
Yeah. And even, it's violence just for the sake of, we need to kick all the bad guys' asses. I mean, at one point, our main hero, Rama, he's trying to help one of his friends who's injured. So they go to an apartment of a guy that's actually a good guy. And they're hiding from the bad guys, just for Rama to go out of the corridor and kick the ass of those bad guys 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Why did you even have to do the whole, hiding in the scene? It's such ridiculous. It's just, it was just to make a little cool scene, but later on he's just outside in the corridor kicking their asses. It's like, that made the whole 20 minutes beforehand completely irrelevant. Thank you.
And the amount of people who die in that thing. The amount, it's just they're just throwing corpses at each other. Because, it's not just kicking and punching, because I think I might have liked this movie more if it was just kicking and punching.
There's a lot of stabbing.
There's a lot of machine guns as well.
Yeah.
So it's also auditively assaulting for me, but...
Yeah, it was loud.
The sound mixing is a bit off for my taste, but whatever.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the remake of Judge Dredd, that came out the same year, which is also a raid within one megaplex building, and it's just, that's what it is. But and it's also a lot of shooting because it's Judge Dredd.
It's Judge Dredd. That's what he does.
Yeah, exactly. And yet I was interested throughout in Judge Dredd because they had that one character who was trying to decide is it moral for us to just start shooting people like that? We're the law. It's yeah, they broke the law, so I shoot them. And she's like, yeah, but they don't have a choice because the drug dealers are gonna kill them if they don't shoot us. Is it morally okay to do that? There's a conversation to be had here, and you're like, yeah, I can follow that. I can grab onto that question. There's a theme. There's questions being asked. Whereas this is just yeah, here's a corpse. There's two corpses.
Yeah. To be fair, the main character, he beats up a bunch of them without killing them. They're just on the floor going, So
that's true.
They're not, they're dying. They're not dead. That's what I'm saying.
And it's not that the movie doesn't have a couple of plot twists. There's one character who switches side at one point, and it's built effectively enough in the sense that it doesn't come out of nowhere. You're I can see why he would do that. And
I don't know. I thought it came out of nowhere, but...
Really? Did you? Well, let's talk about that.
Well, mild spoiler, one of the bad guys in the building is the brother of Rama, the main character.
Yeah.
I thought that came out of nowhere. It's all of a sudden, hey, you're my brother. It was like, it was not established she had lost family or whatever. It was just out of nowhere. I was like, hey, I'm your brother now. And I'm the bad guy, you're the good guy. And I just felt like, that's weird. That's just, if he had established the brother first.
Well, they've established it not on the end of Rama, but on the end of the brother, in the sense that he was looking at the security cameras, because he's like the second in command type guy. And he was like, murr, murr. And you can see it's like, oh, is he trying to betray the bad guy to take over or not? And then it turns out it's like, no, he was going like, meh, because he was like, oh shit, my brother's here.
Okay.
It's like, so, like there's a mystery there, and then it pays off, oh, okay, it's a family relation.
One thing also, maybe it's just me and my crazy experience with wrestling. One thing I found weird though, you establish like another second in command. There are a lot of second in commands in there, but I think Mad Dog was his name. He's established as a good fighter, so you expect, him is going to be him against Rama at the end.
Well, it kind of is.
It kind of is, but it's 2-on-1 against him. It's like the good guys have the advantage in that fight.
Yeah, but he's so awesome.
He wasn't that awesome, though.
He's super awesome. He beat that other cop.
Yeah, he barely beat him, though. It was kind of an even fight at the end.
Yeah, but that other cop is awesome.
We didn't see, that was not established. He was really done. You assume he's awesome because he's the captain, but if you go by North American standards, the higher you are in the police force, the fatter the guys get. So
Yeah, but this is an Indonesian movie.
That's true. Maybe I'm just going to North American standards, but still. So it's like, well, the bad guy is being it's 2-on-1 against him. I should root for the underdog here and root for the bad guy. What's happening here with the psychology?
I think that's imposing a very American standpoint, in the sense of like Americans root for the underdog.
Okay.
And when I say Americans, I mean North Americans.
Yeah.
So we root for the underdog.
Okay.
But there's no rule that says that we have to. Like, that's just a cultural thing. And this movie is from another country. Maybe they don't root for the underdog. Like, maybe they go like...
They root for the overwhelming bullies.
No, but maybe, like... Indonesia is not a communist country, but, like, you'll see a lot of Chinese movies where at the end you'll have, like, the super mega bad guy who's awesome, and then the heroes have to team up to beat him.
Okay.
So close ends like that.
That's true.
And the reason why they do that is because it's ingrained in the culture that together we can achieve more than individually.
Okay.
So I don't know what the culture in Indonesia is.
Maybe it has to do with family. My guess would be. Okay.
Maybe.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think we're looking at it through American eyes. So.
Well, I am. You're not. You thought it was fun. I thought it was like they're overwhelming the bad guys. This is weird.
That fight lasts like something like 20 minutes, I think. That I was gonna say duel, but like truel.
Yeah.
And they hit at each other like seemingly really, really hard, and they do like some spectacular stuff, and blood comes out of their mouth every time they take a hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, but 5 minutes in, you'd all be dead.
Especially mouth bleeding. It's either, you have a cut in your mouth, which is like benign, or your esophagus is pierced, which means you're dead. Yeah. Whatever happens, you're dead. So, you're hoping it's a mouth cut, and it's like benign. It's like, guys, come on, suck it up. It's just, you're bleeding from the mouth. You guys are pussies. Come on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they have weapons at one point in that endless fight. Like, they're hitting each other with, like, metallic shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no way that fight lasts that long.
I know. Well, they're Supermen, fighting 2-on-1 against Superman. Especially since one of the guys starts his fight with a hole in his hand, it's like that cannot feel good, really.
I praised the camera work at the beginning of this podcast. And I also want to criticize it. I found that the camera moves a little bit too much for my taste. It's a bit on the shaky cam side for me.
It's not shaky though. It's moving a lot. You can actually see what's happening. You just have to kind of focus a little more because it does move a lot. But it's not like shaky as in what's happening. Is he punching? Is he kicking? No, it's movie cam. It's not shaky cam.
Okay.
I would call it that. Movie cam. That's terrible.
Well, at one point, Rama takes an axe and starts hacking at the floor to create a hole in which he'll jump and do that cool thing that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And the camera follows, like, the blade of the axe up and down. I was like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah, no, sometimes that was a little weird there.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, like my head is spinning because I saw this in theaters, you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, stop doing that. Oh good god, why?
Well, they used shaky cam to hide the fact that the actors can't fight. Maybe the guy's a very bad chopper, so they didn't want to show it.
I think the movie's about movement. I think Gareth Evans made a movie that was all about kinetic action and movement, and I think that's why he chose that camera style. And at least thematically, it would make sense if that's the case. It's just I don't find that's an interesting theme.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, okay, you do shit. Yay.
Nice.
Obviously, neither of us really liked the movie, but like, how low do you grade it? You know.
I dub it the Indonesian sucker punch. No, okay, at least it was based on reality, so there was that, you know.
It's coherent. Sucker punch is not.
You're right. You know, at least what I'm saying is, for example, when you get shot, for most of the movie, okay, not the final scene, but for most of the movie, you get shot, you know, okay, you're dead, because, you know, you've been shot. As in Sucker Punch, you get shot by a Nazi robot. You don't know what happens, you know, it's the girl's imagination, so whatever. In this one, you know, I knew there was consequences to the stuff that was happening, so it wasn't as bad, but again, it was just, you know, fight scene, a little bit of fight scene, then a little bit of something, and then fight scene. I was like, I was bored of the fighting. It's just, when your movie is based on that, at a certain point, you're like, okay, that's too much. So yeah, I don't rate it that high, honestly. Like, okay, again, maybe showing my age again, but The Matrix was perfectly, you know, the first one, not the other ones. The first Matrix was a great example of, you know, sure, there were fight scenes and there were action scenes, but there was a reason for that, you know, like the first fight scene in Morpheus versus Neo, you know, okay, they were just fighting each other for no reason, but you think that, but no, he was explaining the rules of the Matrix and what happens.
And in so doing, explaining the rules to the audience.
Exactly, and towards the end there, you're like, Neo is like, you know, he's bleeding even though he's out of the Matrix, and said, I thought you said that wasn't real. I was like, oh no, you can still die in the Matrix, you know, giving us, you know, a sense of, yeah, there's still real danger even though it's not real. So... And then he's fighting, then they go in the Matrix, they fight the agents because they're the bad guys. You know, they were explained, they had a reason to be there. So when you had the action, you felt there was a reason for the fighting. And that's what made it really enjoyable. And, you know, it's Keanu Reeves. His choreography was nowhere as good as the actors in this movie.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy the fight scenes in the Matrix more than I enjoy the fight scenes in this movie because I care about what was happening in the Matrix. Or in this one, it was like, okay, you're going to fight these 5 more guys, and next what's going to happen, you're going to fight 5 more guys again. You know, I don't care anymore.
I agree 100% with you, but here's the thing. The critical community does not. They thought this movie was the shits.
Yeah.
And I thought it was shit.
Maybe they just can't spell, is the thing. So let's talk about Raid 2.
Yeah, Raid 2 Redemption. Okay.
No, that is not Redemption.
Oh shit, that's right! You're so right about Redemption being the title of a sequel. You're so right about that.
Yeah.
So, Bernandal.
Yeah.
Raid 2 Bernandal. Which I don't know what a Bernandal is, but I assume it likes catnip.
Something like that.
I have no idea what it is. The trailer, we both saw it.
Yeah.
It's sort of a funny thing because neither of us are remotely interested just because we disliked the first one so much.
Yeah. But there seems to be a story in this one.
Yeah, this one seems to be very, very story heavy. It seems to be an undercover story. I don't know where the raid comes in. There's probably no raid and he just went like, fuck it. But
he's raiding the prison or something? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna make a prediction. The raid is something that happens in the third act, as in the final fight happens to be a raid.
Okay.
And everything else is a thing leading up to that raid.
Alright, so he's going to be in prison for like 3 minutes, and then at 10 minutes the raid's going to start, like in the first movie.
So this seems to be an undercover cop story.
Yeah.
That's a step forward. For me, because that's what I dislike about this movie. Is like, where's the screenplay?
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, to make their movies more attractive, they kind of cheat in the trailers. Like, you know, action movies that just put every action spot in the trailer. And you're expecting more, and then you go to see the movie, and it's like, well, all the action spots I saw were in the trailers. I hope they didn't do the same thing, but for the opposite, for the story parts. They put just all the story parts in the trailer, and the rest is all action that we missed. I'm afraid of that, honestly.
They would be singularly stupid marketers if they did that, because they're marketing a sequel, right?
Yeah.
And they're marketing the sequel of a successful movie that was just kinetic action from beginning to end.
Okay.
And people loved it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do part 2, what you want to do is advertise that you're going to get more of the same, and you loved it the first time around. You shouldn't market like, yeah, now we're doing something completely different, and we're doing the thing that you didn't celebrate. Story.
Oh, yep.
So I'm guessing if they're showing stories, because they're story.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Surprisingly, I guess it's a reverse from Rio. I'm actually kind of intrigued by this trailer, and I actually might watch the movie. Mm-hmm. If they cut and they sparse the action out so that they don't get, action overload, I might actually enjoy this. They sparse it out, they make a good story, you see what's happening with good characters, and then they keep the action as good as they did. Maybe add a little story to the fights. Would be good too. But I don't know, that was hard to see from the trailers if you had that, but
yeah, it's hard to
that'd be great. Even if they can't add the story to the fight, it's hard to do. Sometimes not all stories have, all films have, fight with stories. But even if they can't do that, just the good story by itself and then sparse by good action, I'd be up for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're more open-minded than I am.
That's a first.
That is a first. Because it's the same director, it's the same creative team, and what that creative team has shown me with the first movie is that they're not interested in character or story or anything. They're interested in showing you cool shit nonstop. And then they were rewarded for that approach. There's no reason for them to want to change approach. So even if there is a story, it might be more of a case of like, well, we need to justify a sequel, and that's what I came up with, and this time it has more story.
Yeah, but artists evolve, I mean, you consider them, you either consider them like just money-making people or artists, and if they want to evolve and try and do something better, maybe they will add a little something, just keep adding it on and on,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the artistic process.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I think you have a better attitude towards it. And I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I'm more pessimistic, but you make a very convincing argument, and I'm fully willing to consider the possibility that I'm wrong about this.
How about the American remake that's going to go into production? You think that's going to...
Why?
That's exactly the thing I was going to say.
It's like, okay, the argument we get all the time for like why you should make an American remake of a foreign film is, well, I don't like to read my movies. Trust me, you won't have to if you watch The Raid Redemption.
Yeah, you really won't. That's the point. They could even dub it. It wouldn't lose that much.
No, I really wouldn't.
Yeah, it's not like, every word, every intonation has a meaning, like an Oscar-winning movie. It's like, no. This is just, exposition dialogue just to get to the next fight. Dub it. That's all you need to do.
It's like, where are you going to find this talented a bunch of stunt artists who are willing to risk their lives like this in America? They have unions, and they have concerns about welfare that they might not have in Indonesia, to be perfectly blunt.
Yeah.
The same way that Jackie Chan's movies in the United States are always considerably less interesting than his movies he makes in China.
Especially his early movies where he was not that well known and he was doing even crazier things to get recognized.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And there's a reason for that. It's because over in the East, they just don't give a shit.
That's cold.
Whereas, here, they insure their actors for this $1 million, and for that they have to make sure that they don't put them in this and that danger and whatnot. So, a movie like The Raid, where it's all stunt, go watch the stunt where the guy's stupid enough to do the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Especially since we know he survived, so you don't even have to feel guilty about it.
That's true. Because they're going to get to do less stunts, but they might inject a little more story, though. So...
That is true.
That's a possibility.
That is true.
Oh, man. We can't... That has to suck when you have to add story because you can't do all the stunts you want.
imagine being the guy tasked with writing the screenplay to the Raid remake? It was like, okay, so we sent you the original script of the actual Indonesian movie. Okay, wait, I only got the first 2 pages. No, that's what it is.
Hey, that's freedom for him. So, it's all good.
I don't see the point to the remake. I really don't.
It gives us another episode of Don't F with the original, where we get to watch, I guess,
Yeah, what do we watch? We just reviewed the Raid Redemption.
We're going to have to watch the sequel.
Yeah,
I guess.
I guess so. I guess that's the only way to go. It's like, even if you're one of those people who goes like, I want to see the remake because I needed to star white people shooting guns instead of Indonesian shooting guns. I'm just that kind of person. Oh, first of all, fuck you. And second, watch Dredd. Like, that's exactly what Dredd is. There is no point to the Raid remake.
Yeah. Good point.
Alright. Next week we're taking a teeny tiny break in terms of reviewing, and we're going to have a special where we just discuss sequels in general, just to sort of commemorate the beginning of the summer season, because it's blockbuster time, which means a full bunch of sequels and spin-offs that we don't necessarily need it, but we're going to get anyway, and we're going to see.
Exactly.
And after that, we're going to talk about, of course, Spider-Man.
Yes.
Until then, if you have any questions, comments, you want to tell us why we're so terribly wrong about disliking the Raid, you can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. We're also on Facebook, we're also on Twitter @idiomatic. We're also on YouTube, we're also on iTunes. If you could please like us on Facebook or post a review on iTunes, that would really help us get the support to continue generating content of our I'm gonna kick your ass for 2 hours quality.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to send Nick on like the worst organized raid ever.
You mean World of Warcraft or in real life?